Hi there, this is Yahunatan, and this is another video. This is something a little bit different. Was inspired by Aharon's latest video, and right now we're heading into twilight here, and thought it would be interesting for you to hear some piano here. Been a electronic keyboard player for 12 years now, and thought, you know, maybe we need to show something that's a little bit beyond words here and, uh, you know, look at some other aspects. So, um, was brought into music from my mother, who played music when I was very young, and she played some tunes that really stuck with me. And as the years gone on, um, started to hear less and less music that uh, was thoughtful in nature, and a lot of it came to where it was just noise, to be honest. And there were situations where it was like not hearing the music that, you know, was brought up with, and it was time to, you know, look at playing, and creating music. I remember listening to when younger, and something more personal and such. And uh, Aharon's latest edits kind of captured that moment, with my mother playing, and I thought it would be a different take on what we're dealing with here, of where it's more, we're speaking of the father and such, but there's also a more maternal aspect to this as well that's also seen in Star Wars. And that's the spirit is very maternal. That caring, uh, and and that's the part of Yah that we take for granted, and we don't understand that nurturing aspect. And it's time to really look at things beyond just words on a page here, and see the organic approaches to it. And so this is just going to be a simple recording here. you know we're going to keep it simple, just going to play impromptu and see where it goes. And hopefully we come up with something worthwhile. Okay, so hopefully you enjoy this, and we'll see where it goes.
To me, okay, to me, ultimately, martial art means honestly expressing yourself. Now, it is very difficult to do, okay? I mean, it is easy for me to put on a show and be cocky and be flooded with a cocky feeling and then feel like pretty cool and all that. Or I can make all kinds of phony things, you see what I mean? Blinded by it. Or I can show you some really fancy movement. But to express oneself honestly, not lying to oneself, and to express myself honestly, now that, my friend, is very hard to do. And you have to train. You have to keep your reflexes so that when you want it, it's there. When you want to move, you're moving. And when you move, you are determined to move. Not taking 1 inch, not anything less than that.
Feel like almost singing, you know? It's almost like hearing your beliefs come out, that living, aspect we're talking about, where the words almost sound. Was watching THX a little bit ago, and how Lucas was speaking about how he would use the words and the music to not necessarily say something, but to create a poetic form of what he was experiencing philosophically. And not to say I totally agree with what was being spoken in that film, but there were some techniques that really, stood out as far as language in itself having a more poetic, and the music having a more poetic theme, just like playing the piano organically. I can see that Aaron loves that C sound, that I'm more of a or D sound, but he's more, I think he's in a healing mode right now, and he wants to to feel something that will bring him comfort and healing. That's the sort of meditations he's looking for. When people say meditation, they get into this very out there, very, I hate to say Eastern, but really it's really going out there, and you know meditation, as far as how I've seen it, is you have to muse, you have to think and feel while you're experiencing this moment of silence. You don't just break down everything, okay? That if you do that, anything can just go through you and you have no control. You need to be aware of what you're experiencing at the moment, and you're just taking all the nonsense and you're taking it out, and you're keeping the focus, like in a simple rhythm, simple melody. And see, not worrying about how it sounds, right? Got a little pop up there we're gonna take out. There we go. Let's continue. None of this is planned. That's an inspiration right there, in the moment. You can hear in the music the contemplative thought, right?
Meditation can literally be anything. It can be prayer, it can be sitting alone in your room with your eyes closed, taking deep breaths, or it can be something as simple as washing dishes. Just something to focus your mind on and clears it all away.
You don't have to know a lot. You just play it. And purposely, I'm not, I didn't take, notes or didn't really study the mathematics, just some basic chords. And most of, it's about hearing the music, not so much the structural. And there's a time for the structural, but there's a time where it needs to lay down and just be real. And if it sounds off, a chord gets off, or, so what, right?
So what I'm saying, actually, you see, I mean, it's a combination of both. I mean, here it is the natural instinct, and here is control. You are to combine the two in harmony. Not, if you have one to the extreme, you will be very unscientific. If you have another to the extreme, you become all of a sudden a mechanical man, no longer a human being. So it is a successful combination of both. So therefore, it is not only, so therefore it's not pure naturalness or unnaturalness. The ideal is unnatural naturalness or natural unnaturalness.
Yin yang, eh?
Right, man, that's it.
Just reminds me of that, motherly presence. And sometimes I would play something like this over and over until I found a wonderful song being played. This music's not trying to raise, myself on a pedestal again. It's just to show something here, and created, a few albums called, meditations, and each one has a theme. Like the first meditations albums is about moments of reflection, and it was released around 2003, and that was a very trying year. It's still part of the Jedi organization, so to speak, and was going through a lot of trials. It was after that media incident, and it created really it almost sounded a little depressed, but it was what was going on in the mind at the time. And then I want to say about 2007 or so, created another meditations album, and it was called Silent Dreams, because this was around 2007. That's when I dropped away from the community and totally did a just complete, some people would say it was more like a Dagobah kind of hermit stage, and it definitely was a hermit. Did not really speak with anyone. It was a point where it was just myself, just looking at where what things had passed, and where do I go now. And it's it was just to relook at things and just relearn things. and people are always afraid, to go back and simply press. It's not necessarily to press the restart button, but it's to take another direction. You're hitting a new phase of your life. It was about 20, mid 20s, and you can kind of see, if you look at, like, for example, Lucas's life, those sort of aspects defined him for the future, because there's different sort of stages, not necessarily related with age, but by experience and the trials gone through. And it was such a low point, and the album was called Silent Dreams, and it was having these dreams, these thoughts, and but it would just there was no way to I didn't know how to share those, because it was where I was at. It was so out of the mainstream. Don't want to use too much I here, but you need to get the gist of what was going on. And then about 2014 or so, no, it was about 12, I think, 12, 13, 14, around there. I can't remember, but did a different, meditations. And this one, it was called Faded Souls, and it was definitely a more developed point, in life, and it was taking that different direction. Uh, you know, just expressing what was learned and so forth. And, eventually, you know, would like to share those, because this is a part of me that hasn't really gone out there, but you need to let go of that fear. And as again, like the Bruce Lee video, which we seem to always come back to, it's that uh, interpretation, that original expression of self, and showing it in an honest fashion, which we're so afraid. When we play music or talk to people, right, we're so concerned about how it will sound with others, and we're actually playing for the crowd, and instead of playing for the Father. It's not necessarily for ourselves again here, but it's playing out. Don't, to the Father, don't forget this person here, stranded. There's a lot of distrust and confusion, and right now we need a judge, right, to come into our lives and show us the meaning of truth, and live those words out. That's what it's about. So let's play some more here, okay? As you can see, it's already nighttime. Thought it would be, really neat to see the transition from Twilight, which is one of my favorite times. As Aharon knows, uh, this moment in the day has been the strongest part of me. Some would say that's a night owl sort of mentality, but uh, the focus on night and shining during, like the moon, and during desperate times had dreams of the moon and such, whereas Aharon would dream of the sun, and the coming out of the day, the truth, coming out in the morning. And uh, it was very easy to see he was a more of a morning person. It seems like, and where he's more into where the birds come out and so forth, like what you saw in that video. This is where I think we just came together, when we first discussed, you know, our first email back in May 1999, and it was a great experience. We didn't know where it was going to lead to, and he was at that time of apprentice, a learner, okay, and myself was more like a vagabond, okay, and search, at that time. Before that time, wow, we're getting to great subjects here. You know, it was it was stemming away from the church structure. Was part of that for many years until you know it wasn't about the truth that was being told, but how people were living it. It was about the fruit, right? And the fruit didn't match up with the words that were being spoken, which is called hypocrisy, okay? And nothing against the former religion I was part of, but it the message seemed to get lost in translation, right? So we just wandering there, around, and needed a different avenue to voice some concerns in things that really bothered me, the conscience, and that's when we spoke, met Aharon Streen, and we'll eventually go into a third person who was part of our group, Mithra Narita. I hope I pronounced that, but we never really said it. We just typed it. But Myth was, uh, guess we can say this now. His first name was Mike, and he came from a more European background, and he was more of the mastermind part of our group, and it kind of led us, together uh, into creating something that was really cool. And eventually, we will go back into this aspect, that Jedi Creed, Jedi Council moments. But for now, we really want to, keep it fresh. And let's play a little more before we press the stop button. Okay, and let's just enjoy the nighttime here. Sometimes you just need to be inspired to play better. As you can see, I just know some, basic chords. But it's about expression. You see.